Heartwarming reunion. Billionaire mother reveals incredible transformation after 6 years, discovers the true meaning of home. Emily Carter's heart raced as she pulled into the familiar streets of her small Midwestern hometown. The sunshine spilled over the houses like warmth from a hug, and still, there was a shiver down her spine as she parked her sleek, expensive car in front of her childhood home. Memories tangled like wildflowers around her heart. The echo of laughter from neighborhood barbecues, the joy of family game nights, and her mother's comforting presence seemed to hover in the air, and yet this time, all there was anxiety, a creeping doubt. Would she still belong here? The billionaire entrepreneur who had once been a humble waitress. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel as she envisioned her mother's reaction when she stepped out of the car, the disparity between their lives starkly evident. Had Emily traded in the values that forged their bond for a life of wealth and luxury? Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the warm embrace of nostalgia, the door creaking open like a childhood secret, only to realize she was met with more silence than sound. The porch needed a touch of paint, the garden a bit of love. She caught sight of a stray dog, imagining the neighbors' familiar faces, but one stood still in her mind, her mother. She could almost hear her voice saying, "Success 1T, fill your heart, M." Before she had time to collect her thoughts, the storm hit. Rain lashed against the window panes as thunder growled its ominous warning. As the storm ravaged leaves, uprooted trees, and shattered dreams, Emily felt it. A pitiful guilt swelling in her chest. Could she really be the person her community needed just because she wore a new title? Her thoughts spiraled. Could she still bear the identity of the waitress with a mother who believed in kindness and connection? In the days following the storm's devastation, Emily slowly gathered her courage and summoned her resources. After weeks of silence, she reached out to neighbors, hoping to rope them into a massive fundraising effort. Yet the whispers began. "She's a billionaire now," some said, eyes narrowing in judgment. "Is she just trying to buy our love?" Others extended cautious optimism, seeing hope where she saw shadows. The juxtaposition of hope and resentment knotted in her stomach. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emily stood before a crumbled home, she locked eyes with a child, a little girl whose innocence mirrored her own past. Hope gleamed in the child's gaze, a vivid reminder of who Emily once was, before the ambition consumed her. Heat prickled in her eyes as her determination solidified. This moment mattered. It wasn't just about homes or reputations. It was about soul, connection, and reclaiming her identity. But the hurt ran deep, and thoughts of her mother loomed over her like storm clouds. Would this struggle bring reconciliation or further separation? With every effort Emily made to mend the rifts, she faced the daunting question: can the waitress still exist beneath the billionaire's mask? As she stood at this emotional crossroads, the real battle lay ahead. What was the true price of success, and could she ever truly come home? Emily took a moment to breathe, standing amid the chaos and despair. The little girl, clutching her teddy bear, looked expectantly up at her, as if believing that the woman in front of her could somehow fix everything. In that instant, Emily felt a tug at her heart, a yearning to rise from the weight of her title, to shake off the billionaire image and connect with the people who needed her. Yet the self-doubt clung to her like shadow, whispering questions that she was desperate to silence. "Can you help us?" the girl had asked, trembling slightly, her voice barely audible over the sound of rain pattering down. It pierced through Emily's organized thoughts, causing her to kneel before the child. In those bright, innocent eyes she saw something beyond mere survival. She saw hope. "Of course, I'm here to help," Emily said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We'll figure it out together." As Emily gathered locals in the town hall the next day, the atmosphere shifted from skepticism to unity. Sure, there were still murmurs. Yet, seeing familiar faces from her past ignited a spark of their shared history, a testament to resilience. One by one, people stepped up, offering their skills: builders and carpenters, bakers and teachers. They were a patchwork of lives woven together by shared memories, and despite the awkwardness, a flicker of possibility began to glow. "Why do you care now?" A familiar face from her past, Lisa asked, crossing her arms. "You left us behind, Em." Emily nodded, tears glazing her eyes. "I never meant to leave anyone behind. I got caught up in my dreams. But I can't pretend to be who I used to be. I want to be better. I want to give back. I want to help." Some jaw muscles relaxed, and a few faces softened. But as she spoke, she noticed her mother's absence more potently than usual. Emily missed those wise eyes watching her, filled with both love and skepticism, as if judging her intentions. Would she see her daughter's presence in this endeavor as a redemption or a facade? As the meeting ended, Emily felt the unsteady ground beneath her begin to solidify. There was a collective effort to collaborate, and it brought people together, a kind of healing she hadn't anticipated. Someone suggested starting a community garden, a space that would feed both bodies and souls. The idea resonated, and suddenly everyone was pitching in, sharing gardening skills and laughter over past memories. But internally, something was still brewing in Emily's mind. The more she did to help, the more she feared it wasn't enough. Flashes of her past flooded her thoughts. The lessons her mom had taught about humility, the warmth of being part of something bigger than oneself. It led her to wonder how she could honor those lessons while growing into the woman she aspired to be. She looked out across the room, seeing people starting to connect. Yet somewhere tucked away was a voice, a reminder: Emily the waitress, someone who existed long before she had the weight of wealth on her shoulders. What if she could marry those versions of herself? She felt her heart beat louder at the thought. With every small step forward, though, Emily knew the thunder of doubt might come roaring back. There were still people to win over, barriers to break. Could she rally the town to heal through all of this? Would they ever see the girl beneath the title? As she stood on the threshold of true connection, a chilling question lingered: what would it take for her to truly belong again? And just as a gust of wind howled around the room, one thought pierced through the noise: was she finally ready to embrace herself, mask and all, within this community that might or might not accept her? The air in the town hall buzzed with energy as Emily stepped back into the crowd, the chatter of familiar voices wrapping around her like a warm blanket. A sense of relief washed over her. Perhaps this wasn't just a meeting, it was a step toward healing, and she felt a spark of her old self emerging. Yet with every laugh and smile shared, the weight of doubt pressed heavier on her chest. As the townspeople gathered their thoughts on the community garden, Emily's heart raced. Could this truly unite them? In her mind, the garden could become a sanctuary not just for vegetables and flowers but for renewed connections, dreams, and hope. She pictured children playing among the plants, laughter mingling with the scent of fresh soil and blooming petals. A heartbeat later, Lisa stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "All right, I'll help. But you need to know that trust doesn't just come back because you're trying. You'll have to earn it." The room quieted, eyes flicking between Emily and Lisa, each breath holding charged anticipation. "Fair enough," Emily replied, her voice steady but rich with emotion. "I'll do everything I can to prove it. I want to be part of our community again." Emily stepped closer to Lisa. "Let us work together. You know this place, I need your guidance." Lisa nodded, the hardness in her expression softening just a bit. Behind her, heads started to nod, hope threading through their shared history, pulling them closer together like vines growing on the same trellis. They spent hours brainstorming, choosing a plot of land, discussing which crops to plant, and figuring out who would maintain what. The air filled with ideas, laughter, and old stories resurfacing like treasures unearthed. Emily watched as the skepticism melted away, replaced by the glimmer of excitement. Just then, a voice from the back called out, "What about the funding? It's going to take money to make this happen, Em." A wave of unease rippled over the group. Suddenly, the past crept into Emily's thoughts, each cent of her wealth, the cutthroat negotiations she'd mastered, the loneliness that came with her success. She looked at the familiar faces, remembering their struggles and the stark contrast to her life. She stood in front of them now, not just the wealthy woman they knew but someone ready to bridge that gap. "I can help with funding," she began, the words tumbling out with more sincerity than she had anticipated. "I may have lived in a different world for a long time, but every dollar I donate will come from a place of wanting to belong again. This is more than just a garden, it's a way for us to connect." The murmurs grew, some open to supporting her while others remained uncertain. Emily knew she had much more to prove. Yet, with a newfound determination, she decided to ask them one more time. "Will you work with me? Will you give me a chance? Together, we can make this happen." A silence blanketed the room, and the truth of her question hung in the air. How could she bridge the divide between the life she led and the life they shared? However, the flame flickering within her was igniting others, pulling them closer. Then came a small voice, the little girl from the previous day, clutching her teddy bear tightly. "I believe in you, Emily. Can we really make our garden come to life?" Emily's heart skipped. Hope radiated from the child as she nodded fiercely, swiping her doubts aside. "Yes. Yes, we can." As they continued to lay the groundwork for their garden and their future, Emily felt the pieces of herself reconnecting. But lurking beneath the surface, a question loomed larger. When the dust settled, would the townspeople still see her as one of their own, or would old resentments and wounds resurface? She took a deep breath, hoping she was ready to face the truth whatever it might be. The wind outside howled, and she couldn't help but wonder, would the storm of resistance return, or could she truly cultivate a place for herself within their hearts? Emily woke the next morning, sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, warming her face like a gentle promise. The events of the previous night played through her mind like a cherished tune, the laughter and shared plans for the garden still echoing softly in her heart. Yet, as she swung her legs over the side of the bed, a wave of doubt crashed over her, chilling her resolve. Was it all too good to be true? She rose slowly, trying to shake off the unease. The prospect of the garden lingered, bright and inviting, flashing visions of joy and community before her. But she knew rebuilding trust would demand more than just intentions. It would require grit, patience, and perhaps most importantly, vulnerability. After a quick breakfast, Emily stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the crisp morning air. The town felt alive around her, the faint sounds of children laughing and neighbors exchanging greetings wafting through the streets. Today, she would meet the community around the potential garden site, something real, something tangible that could unite them. Nervously, she made her way to the plot of land they had scouted together. It was a modest space overgrown with weeds, but Emily could already see the beauty that lay beneath. When she arrived, familiar faces greeted her. Lisa stood among them, her arms crossed but the corners of her mouth lifted slightly, reinforcing the thawing connection. Emily pushed aside her nerves, smiling brightly as she approached. "Morning, everyone!" she called out, and the group turned, responding with nods and murmurs of encouragement. "I'm excited to get started today. A community garden has the power to bring us all together." As Emily explained the first steps to clearing the land, kids began to scamper over, eager to help. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and she couldn't help but laugh as they playfully hopped over the muddy patches, shouting joyfully to one another. It felt almost magical, and for a moment, all her doubts faded. Just then, Lisa chimed in, "We'll need tools. Does anyone have some we can lend?" Emily watched as hands shot up, eager to contribute. It warmed her heart to see everyone so willing to pitch in. The day unfolded with laughter, teamwork, and stories shared. They worked side by side under the sun, tilling the soil and discussing what to plant. Each person brought their own dreams and experiences, weaving them into the fabric of the garden. Emily found herself feeling more at home with each passing hour. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of pink and orange, exhaustion began to settle in her bones. And yet, in that fatigue lay a deep sense of accomplishment. The plot was no longer just an overgrown mess. It was a canvas of potential and hope. But just as Emily savored the moment, she noticed Lisa standing apart, her expression suddenly serious. The warmth from the day seemed to wane as Lisa stepped closer. "We still have more to talk about, Emily," she said, her eyes searching Emily's for understanding. "This is a good start, but we need to address the bigger issues, the relationships, the past chatter." Emily's heart sank at the weight of Lisa's words. "You mean the doubts? The fears?" "Yes," Lisa sighed, her voice steady but laced with concern. "We can plant all the seeds we want, but if we don't address what has been sown in the past, they might not take root." As the sun set behind them, casting long shadows on the ground, Emily knew Lisa was right. Would the past shadows suffocate the new growth? With a deep breath, she nodded slowly, preparing herself for the hard conversations that lay ahead. Could she truly confront the past while building a future? An indelible question lingered in her mind as she looked into Lisa's earnest eyes. What would it take to heal the wounds between them? Emily tightened her grip around the garden hoe, determined to find the answer. But as confidence swelled within her, another thought crept in: could the community truly forgive and move forward, or were they all doomed to repeat history? Emily felt a tightening in her chest as they stood there, the fading sunlight mirroring the uncertainty that clouded her mind. It took all the courage she could muster to break the silence. "You're right, Lisa. We need to talk about the past. It's the only way we can build trust now." The murmurs of the group grew quiet, all eyes turning toward Emily. She felt the weight of their expectation and fear. After all, they were all in this together. If the garden was going to thrive, its roots must dig deep into the soil of their shared experiences, good and bad. "I think," Emily started, her voice catching slightly before she steadied herself, "that we need to address why we stopped coming together as a community to begin with. Why things got messy." She looked around, searching each face for some sign of understanding. "We've been through a lot." A few people nodded, including Lisa, but Emily could see the mix of emotions playing across their faces. There were scars that weren't easy to show, wounds still raw from old arguments and resentments. "I know that when I first moved here, I tried so hard to fit in," Emily continued, feeling a warmth spreading through her from raw honesty. "But I also felt like an outsider. It was like I was always worried about stepping on toes." Lisa stepped closer, her voice low but filled with conviction. "And you weren't alone in that feeling, Emily. We've all had our moments when we felt unheard, or desperate for validation. That fear created barriers among us." The atmosphere shifted. The sun sank completely behind the horizon, leaving a serene twilight as Emily sensed a collective release of tension. It's hard to admit vulnerability, but it was as if each person there had finally caught their breath, reflecting on their shared struggle. "Maybe we could hold a gathering," Lisa suggested, glancing around as others reacted positively to her words. "An open forum to share memories, feelings. To reconnect. We all have a stake in this garden, and a chance to transform it into something meaningful." Emily felt a rush of hope wash over her. This was what she wanted: a space where everyone felt safe to share their truth. "Yes!" she exclaimed, excitement bubbling up in her. "Not just for the garden, but for us, too. We could involve more people, talk about what worked and what didn't, and find a way to move forward." The group began buzzing as conversations ignited. Ideas flowed, laughter mixed with hesitant smiles, and for the first time, Emily could feel the invisible walls they had built start to crumble. But just as things seemed to shift for the better, a familiar face appeared in the distance. Josh, the town's former leader, and the source of so much discord, was walking toward them. Emily's heart raced, caught between hope and apprehension. This was the person tied to many struggles, and his presence had the potential to ignite old flames of anger. Is he here to help or cause trouble? Emily thought, her mind racing with what this could mean for their fragile unity. The weight of uncertainty felt heavy again. As Josh approached, the conversation faded into an anxious silence. Emily could almost hear the heartbeat of her community in that stillness. Would he stand by her side, or would he stir up the past once more? With the air thickening with possibility and dread, she took a step forward. "We need to talk." Could this unexpected encounter be the turning point they desperately needed, or would it unravel everything they'd just begun to build? Emily's breath caught in her throat as she faced Josh. His tall frame, shadowed by the dimming light, seemed both daunting and familiar at once. She remembered the leadership style he'd once wielded like a sword, cutting through uncertainty and igniting tensions. The community's division had largely stemmed from his decisions, and now, here he was, standing on the precipice of their moment of renewal. "Hey everyone," Josh said, raising a hand in cautious greeting. There was a mixture of responses. Some smiled, while others narrowed their eyes. Emily felt a swell of anxiety ripple through the group. Would they let their past dictate today? "Emily," Josh said, his attention locked onto her. "I heard voices and came to see what's going on." His tone was curious, perhaps even hopeful, but beneath it, she sensed the skepticism of the crowd. "We're trying to reconnect," Emily replied, steadying her voice. "To talk about the past and figure out how to move forward." Josh nodded, expressions flickering over his face. Maybe deep down, he felt the weight of their shared history too. "Is that so? I'd like to help." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some faces lit up in cautious approval, others remained tense. Could Josh actually be sincere? After what happened with the funding for their community projects, trust was scarce. "Help how?" Lisa asked, stepping forward to stand beside Emily. It was clear she was just as wary. "I want to listen," Josh replied, sincerity creeping into his voice. "I know I've made mistakes, but if you're willing, I want to be part of this." Emily could feel the collective breath held around her. Was this a fairy tale twist or another false promise? Trust didn't come easy in this community. It was something they'd all fought for against a backdrop of past disappointments. "Why now?" someone called out from the back. It was a valid question, one that hung in the air like a heavy cloud, ready to rain doubt over the fragile hope they had just cultivated. "Because I care," Josh said, his voice unwavering. "I've realized my role in the division. I want to make things right." The silence stretched, but in that quiet, Emily felt a flicker of something possibility. Maybe if they could all share their truths, including Josh's, they could finally confront the ghosts that haunted their community. "Then let us start there," Emily suggested, her heart racing. "If we're willing, let us have an open forum, all voices heard, not just the loudest. Everyone deserves a chance to speak." "What if we make it a potluck?" Lisa jumped in. "Something light, where everyone can bring a dish and exchange stories over food. If we can invite this sense of community back, it may soften the edges of old wounds." Hope sparked across the crowd. "Great idea!" Josh chimed in, his green eyes lighting up. "I can bring the drinks. This just might work." As discussions began to form around the idea of the gathering, Emily felt a wave of relief. This was a chance to stitch back together the fabric of their community. But a part of her remained apprehensive. Could old grudges really be laid to rest? "Let us set a date," Emily said, clapping her hands together to gather attention. "And we'll plan what we want to discuss." Just then, one member of the older generation spoke up, her voice soft yet piercing. "What if we dig deeper?" she said. "What if we face the real reasons we've struggled?" That single question struck Emily like lightning, illuminating the path forward but also the weight of the truth that lay ahead. What stories were buried in the soil of their past? As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, a new uncertainty formed in her mind. They might just uncover more than they bargained for. What hidden truths would emerge when they dug deeper? And could the garden really blossom from such a complex history? Emily stood in the fading light, her heart pounding as the murmurs of the crowd began to settle into a low hum. She could almost hear the thoughts swirling through their minds, hope mixing with hesitation. The air felt thick with the palpable tension of the past, but now they stood at the brink of something new. "Let us set a date," Emily reiterated, glancing around. "How about next Saturday? A week should give everyone enough time to prepare their dishes and think about what we want to share." Lisa nodded, encouraging others to join in. Slowly, hands began to rise. "Count me in," someone called from the back, voice steady but cautious. "I'm bringing my aunt's famous chili. But could we make sure it's a safe space?" I don't want old arguments to ruin this. Yes. Another responded, a younger man with a worried expression. I've been waiting for an opportunity to tell my side of the story if that's okay. The seeds of resilience were starting to sprout. Emily could see it in their faces, the flickers of hope pushing through uncertainty. Even Josh seemed more grounded now, his gaze shifting from one person to the next as he absorbed their concerns. Absolutely, Emily assured them. This is about healing, not attacking. Let us keep it focused on the future. But just as optimism began to settle in, an older man, his voice heavy with years of disappointment, spoke up. And if we unearth things that are too painful? Are we really ready to confront them? His words echoed in the air, reminding Emily of all the fractured relationships and deep scars that lingered beneath the surface. The gathering could shine light onto those dark corners, but what if it shattered the fragile truce they were beginning to build? Josh took a step forward, his resolve steadying the room. We owe it to ourselves to be honest, he declared, his expression earnest. If we can't face those past grievances, how can we truly move forward? I promise I won't shy away from difficult conversations. I'm ready for that. His conviction stirred something in the crowd, a collective bristle of consideration. For a heartbeat, Emily saw the walls shift, rationality dancing between fear and the possibility of unearthing their truths. And what if we don't like what we discover? A woman asked, her voice laced with vulnerability. The question hung there, raw and real. Then we deal with it, Josh replied. Together. The conversation shifted, veering into stories of their struggles and the chasms those fractures had created. It wasn't easy, memories were tender, emotions raw. The laughter and camaraderie that emerged at times felt like a delicate dance, careful and tentative, yet filled with an undeniable longing for connection. As the evening drew on, Emily found herself mesmerized by the glimpse of hope in the room. It was as if the collective wounds that had festered for so long were being treated with the balm of vulnerability. They were not alone, they were in this together. But as she looked into the faces of the gathered community, the echo of that older man's question lingered in her mind. What if they unearthed more than they anticipated? What if they opened doors that should have remained closed? As she left for the evening, a chill settled over Emily. Hope wrestled with dread, turning in her gut like a restless spirit seeking resolution. Could they truly confront their shared history? Would the upcoming potluck be the catalyst for renewal or an unearthing of deep-rooted pain? The uncertainty loomed over her, a shadow stretching into the night's darkness. She needed to prepare for whatever lay ahead. What buried secrets would they uncover when they dared to dig deeper? And would the community emerge whole or even more fractured than before? Emily woke the next morning to sunlight filtering through her bedroom window, painting the room in golden hues. But despite the light, a heaviness weighed on her heart. She couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension clinging to her. Today was Saturday, the day they had designated for the potluck, and every possibility of what might unfold twisted in her mind. After a quick breakfast, she tidied up her little house, preparing both physically and mentally. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air as she paced her kitchen, wondering what dish she should bring. She needed something that represented her journey, something that would foster connection. Finally, she settled on her grandmother's recipe for apple pie. It was a reminder of home, of warmth, and the sweetness of shared moments. As she rolled out the dough, memories flooded her mind, gatherings filled with laughter, all the faces that had been stitched together by good food and love. Today, she hoped, they could weave new memories, despite the shadows of the past lurking behind them. As the afternoon sun began to droop low in the sky, Emily loaded her car with the pie and a few plates. The drive to the community center was quick, but her mind raced with thoughts. What would happen when they all gathered? Would old wounds crack open, spilling their hurt into the community like an uncontained flood? The image of the older man with the weight of disappointment flashed in her mind. Could she handle it if things escalated? When she arrived, the parking lot was already buzzing with activity. Cars were lined up, and she could see families unloading pots and pans, laughter rising above nervous chatter. It felt strangely comforting, like stepping into a long-lost embrace, but the whisper of anxiety still lingered in the air. Emily stepped inside the community center, her heart beating a rapid drum. The room had been decorated with colorful streamers and bright tablecloths, an effort to promote a sense of festivity. But beyond the decorations, she noticed the faces of her neighbors, some familiar, others not. Yet tension tinged many expressions, an undercurrent that coursed beneath the surface. She placed her pie on the long table filled with an array of colorful dishes, each carrying its own story. As she turned to face the crowd, she noticed Josh at the front, drawing attention to himself. His stance was confident, yet she saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He had stood up for honesty before, but this time, there was a hesitance there, a vulnerability he usually concealed. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady. "I know this isn't easy for any of us. But today, we're taking a step into the unknown. I hope we can embrace our truths and respect each other." His words landed in the room, solid and real. Several people nodded, but Emily noticed the tightness in some jaws as they processed his message. "What if we can't?" someone called from the back. The question hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Emily's heartbeat quickened. Would they really have the courage to face whatever surfaced? She exchanged glances with Josh, silently urging him to keep going. "Then we work through it," he replied, sounding more convinced than before. "Let us remember why we're here today." Behind him, a small group of women whispered to one another, their eyes darting around the room. Emily could feel the tension amplifying, turning almost electric. She wondered if they could find the strength to bear their truths without tearing each other apart. As the plates were passed around, laughter mixed with conversations that began, hesitant but slowly growing warm. Was this the beginning of something beautiful, or the brink of chaos? Emily couldn't decide. She only knew one thing: whatever lay ahead was about to change everything. But as she glanced around the room, she noticed something, the flicker of recognition as old friends locked eyes, a spark bridging past grievances. Could it be that they were on the cusp of turning towards one another rather than pulling away? Little did she know that the choice to confront or retreat was about to be made for them, and soon, the truth would unveil itself in ways they never expected. What would it reveal? And would they have the strength to face it together? The chatter in the room swelled as Emily took a step back, her heart still hammering in her chest. It felt like everyone was teetering on the brink of opening up, but just as quickly, they would pull back, each smile shadowed by an unacknowledged hurt. She could sense the shift. Familiarity was not enough to erase the scars, and beneath the surface, she felt the weight of unspoken truths. "Let us start with introductions. Maybe share something you love about your dish," Josh suggested, his attempt at levity punctuated by a nervous chuckle. As he leaned against the table, a distraction for the tension-filled crowd, Emily watched the others gather closer, eyes darting from face to face. Emily's mind drifted while she surveyed the gathering. There was Sarah, the bright-eyed girl from her 10-year-old self, now transformed into a bitter woman barely making eye contact. And then the kids, running about without a care, a reminder that innocence sometimes gets snatched away in the frenzy of adulthood. When it was Emily's turn, she felt vulnerable, like the apple pie she had brought, beautiful on the surface yet hide a mix of sweet and tart. "I made this pie using my grandmother's recipe," she started, her voice steadying her nerves. "It symbolizes family and love for me, something I hope we can rediscover." A few murmurs of agreement mingled with some mistrustful glances, and she sensed that she had opened a door, one that was either leading towards warmth or chaos. There was something magical about sharing personal ties, but the expectations on them weighed heavily. "I wish I could feel that way," a voice called from the side, and the crowd turned toward a figure at the back. Emily could see it was Matt, a familiar face etched with deep lines of regret. So many of us have lost those connections. What good is a potluck when we can't even sit at the same table? His words fell like stones, and the room shifted, the tension morphing into something sharper, harder. "We're just expected to forget the past?" Another joined in, anger bubbling beneath their words. Emily's heart ached. This was not what she envisioned. She looked at Josh, whose eyes mirrored her fear. What had once seemed like an opportunity for open-heartedness now veered towards a reckoning they weren't prepared for. Taking a deep breath, Emily spoke again. Maybe it's not just about forgetting. Maybe it's about understanding each other as truths, the pain we carry. We've all changed in these past years, haven't we? We need to share our stories. The room held its breath, uncertainty reigning. A few faces softened, and she could see a flicker of hope in Josh's eyes, but others remained tight-lipped. Tell us then, Emily. Came a challenge from someone she barely recognized. What is your story? The question struck her like a bolt. Did she want to share? Did she want to reveal her own layers of hurt, the struggles she defaced with loneliness and loss? Laughter filled her days, sure, but the darkness loomed ever present, just inches from her soul. As she pondered how much to reveal, she felt a surge of warmth and echo of courage she had hoped would fill the room. Well, I lost someone dear to me, and it left a hole in my heart, she began, words spilling out. But I learned to fill it with love, to connect with those around me, or at least try. The room shifted as her words reverberated. She saw Matt lean forward. The tightness in the air began to thin. It was just the beginning. Raw honesty was still buried deep inside so many. Would they reach for it? Would they admit the vulnerabilities that kept them apart? Emily could feel that she had turned a corner, one they all could travel together if only they dared. But would the lines of connection weave tighter, or would they unravel entirely? As conversations swirled around her, the stakes were getting higher, and with every unspoken word, the path forward became murkier. Noticing the intensity looming in the room, she braced herself. What would they choose to confront next? And would their collective fears result in a breakthrough or a breakdown? As the warmth of shared laughter filled the room, Emily realized how fragile this moment was. The air crackled with tension, each breath carrying the weight of unspoken truths. She could sense the urgency in the glances exchanged, the way walls threatened to buckle under the pressure of pent-up emotions. Let us embrace this, she urged, her voice steady but voice quavering, a blend of hope and fear. Let us share what lies beneath. We're creating a new narrative today. Uncertainty hung heavily in the air, but slowly, one by one, faces began to soften. A woman on the far side put her dish down and sighed. I haven't felt connected to this place in so long. It feels strange but right being here again, with people I used to care about. I know, another voice chimed in, life got complicated. We just drifted. Emily felt the tide turning. It was as if a dam had broken, flooding the room with vulnerability and reality. Old grievances rose more easily than expected, carving out pathways toward healing rather than drawing lines in the sand. I was angry, Matt admitted, his voice cracking. When you left, Emily, it felt like a betrayal. I didn't want our old friendship back. It was easier this way. But standing here? I feel foolish for holding on to that. The aroma of apple pie lingered sweetly in the air, mingling with the scent of savory dishes that were now secondary to the raw emotions unfurling among the group. Each confession chipped away at the bitterness that had built like layers of dust over the years. Maybe we all feel abandoned at times, Lisa said softly, her eyes searching the room. I thought success would change you, but you stood up today in front of all of us. That speaks volumes. Emily locked eyes with Lisa, sensing the bridge they were slowly building trended towards community rather than segregation. I needed to come back, she said, her heart racing. To confront my own failures, to confront you all. It took losing my mother to push me back here. She taught me to value connection more than anything else. That's why I'm here. A murmur of agreement followed. Faces began to nod, allowing Emily's words to ripple through the hearts of others like a soothing balm. This unearthing felt natural as stories drifted from mouth to mouth, connecting memories of mischief and loss, and reminding one another of the shared laughter that had once tied them together. I couldn't show my vulnerability, a soft voice spoke from the back, an elderly man who had once been an anchor in the community. But it's true, I miss you all. Even when I distanced myself, I ached for the warmth we lost. I just didn't have the courage to reach out. With each word shared, it felt like stitches were weaving the frayed tapestry of their history back together. They could connect through regrets and triumphs alike, rebuilding what had once seemed irreparable. Emily gauged the mix of emotions. Hope flickered amidst the doubt, a fragile but beautiful balance. Suddenly, the little girl Emily had met earlier stepped up, clutching her teddy bear. "Can I tell a story too?" she asked timidly. The room fell silent, faces turned towards the child. "Yes," Emily encouraged, her heart swelling. "We're all here to listen." In a small voice, the girl recounted her day of planting seeds in her own backyard, speaking of hope and patience as the audience leaned closer. "Sometimes you plant something, and it feels like nothing happens, right? But then, one day you see growth." The crowd let out a collective sigh, a wave of understanding washing through them all. Emily felt tears prick her eyes as she watched the girl's innocent optimism sparkle. "That's what we are right now," she exclaimed. "We've been planting more than just crops, we've been planting trust. And it's finally growing." The truth in her words echoed like the ringing of a bell, nudging everyone to let go of the past while anchoring them in the present. It wasn't just about communal gardening, it was about cultivating relationships, nurturing one another through vulnerability and openness. "Let us continue nurturing this connection," Emily suggested, her voice steady with renewed strength. "We can set up regular gatherings not just for food but for sharing our journeys as friends and neighbors. We need to create a place where everyone feels they belong. One gathering at a time." As murmurs of agreement broke out, Emily could hardly contain her joy. So many glances brightened. This was the beginning of a true reunion, a heartfelt reconnection. Together, they could not only tend to their garden but also nurture their lives. Secrets wouldn't be buried anymore. Shafts of honesty illuminated the path forward, revealing a community rebuilt on trust and compassion. As Emily stood there, surrounded by the warmth of renewed connections, she felt the burdens of her past lift. She was no longer the waitress turned billionaire or merely the daughter of a beloved mother. She was back among family, a community that would embrace every layer of her identity. And as laughter rang out in bursts, the flicker of hope that had sparked in the hearts of the community now shone like a beacon, promising that together, they would indeed flourish. Now, before this transformational journey continues, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like immediately to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference for us. Comment below with your feelings and reactions about the story. And don't wait not even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions.